45 or 345, 350.
Right.
Right. It didn't change a lot. If he gave me great conditions, maybe I could stretch it to 410, 415. But to go from him playing 5.5 hours last year in the finals and then having the Heat tap him in an hour 45, there's a difference between being fit and being prepared. And I have to point at a flaw in that kind of preparation because there's something you can do about that. It's not that dude doesn't work hard. It's not that he's not fit. And he was one game away, and the whole draw opened up. I mean, we all thought we'd see him here, maybe not even losing a set. But in any case, it's been a hell of a tournament to watch. I mean, the nerves now are classic. I mean, I think they're starting to bring in another element that you love kind of watching, right? It's like
Melbourne Park, January. For hours and 9 minutes have already crawled past on the clock, and somewhere in the middle of that brutal, breathless war, a 38-year-old man is doing something science says he shouldn't be able to do anymore. He's saving break points. Not one, not two, 16 out of 18. Think about that number for a second. 18 times Jannik Sinner, the best player on the planet, the man built like a tank and moving like a sprinter, stood one shot away from tearing the match wide open. And 18 times, -2, Novak Djokovic looked him dead in the eye and said no. This wasn't just a tennis match. This was a man refusing to let the calendar decide his fate. Djokovic hadn't beaten Sinner in 5 straight meetings. 5. The narrative was already written, already printed, already accepted by everyone watching. The torch had passed, the king was aging, the crown belonged to someone new. And then Djokovic walked out under the lights in Australia and tore that narrative to shreds, point by agonizing point, set by brutal set. 3-6, 6-3, 4-6, 6-4, 6-4. 5 sets, 4 hours and 9 minutes. A body pushed to its absolute limit against a man 14 years younger. When it was over, Djokovic could barely speak. Lost for words, he said, and who could blame him? He had just delivered, by his own admission, by everyone's admission, one of the performances of his career. A masterclass in survival, in defiance, in refusing to go quietly. But here's the thing about miracles. They don't repeat on command. Fast forward, Wimbledon, center court, the same 2 men, the same stakes, a spot in the final on the line. Except this time, something was different. This time, the story didn't bend to Djokovic's will. Sinner didn't just win. He suffocated him. Across the entire match, Djokovic created exactly 1 breakpoint. 1. In Australia, he'd had 8 chances and converted 3. At Wimbledon, the door barely opened a crack before it slammed shut again. Sinner served like a man who had studied every inch of what went wrong in Melbourne and made sure it would never happen again. And on the other side of the net, Djokovic was fighting just to stay upright in the match. 13 break points against his own serve. 13 moments where the entire contest could have collapsed. He clawed back and saved 10 of them, an incredible number on paper, the kind of defensive performance that would headline any other match. But this time, it wasn't enough. Because this time, the margins were too thin, the gap too wide. 6-4, 6-4, 6-4. No 5th set, no twist, no storybook ending. Just a straight-set statement delivered with brutal efficiency by the world number 1. Look at the numbers and the story tells itself. Djokovic won only 38% of his second serve points. 38%, a number that, for a player of his caliber, should be almost unthinkable. His first serve held up better, 75%, respectable by most standards. But Sinner was operating on another planet entirely, 88% behind his first delivery. And when it came to raw power, Sinner blasted 16 aces to Djokovic's 8. Double. There was a warning sign before any ball was even struck. Andre Agassi, a man who knows exactly what it takes to stand across the net from genius, had already sounded the alarm. He said Sinner was better than Djokovic almost everywhere on the court. Almost. The one exception Agassi pointed out was the second serve on break points, a shot Djokovic could still exploit if he needed a lifeline. But then Agassi added the warning that now reads like prophecy. If that's the only card you have left to play, you are in serious trouble. He said Djokovic would need to redline, push himself past every limit, empty every tank just to have a chance. And somehow, impossibly, in Australia, he did exactly that. But greatness has a cost. And this time, the bill had already come due before the match even started. Just days earlier, Djokovic had survived a war of his own, a brutal quarterfinal against Felix Auger-Aliassime that stretched past 5 hours. 5 hours of running, lunging, defending, surviving. The kind of match that drains a young body, let alone one that has carried the weight of nearly 2 decades at the top of the sport. So, when he walked out to face Sinner again, the question wasn't just whether he could out-strategize him. It was whether there was anything left in the tank at all. Djokovic himself admitted afterward that his body had held up well throughout the tournament, a rare and welcome change after years of injuries creeping into his Grand Slam campaigns. But holding up is not the same as thriving. And Agassi, watching closely, saw something deeper than fatigue. He pointed to Djokovic's history, the years of visible struggle, the constant battles with his own body laid bare for everyone to see. But now, Agassi said, something had shifted. Now it felt like Djokovic was hiding things, choosing his moments, picking carefully where to spend his fuel, instead of throwing everything at every single point the way he once did. It's a small adjustment, a subtle one, but in a sport decided by inches and milliseconds, subtle is exactly what tips the scale. And here's where the story turns dark for anyone still clinging to the dream of one more miracle. Because of where they sit in the rankings, Djokovic and Sinner are now destined to collide only in the biggest moments, semifinals, finals, the matches that come at the very end of brutal, punishing tournament runs. Which means every single time these two men meet, Djokovic will already have spent himself. Every time, he'll be walking onto the court carrying the accumulated damage of a full fortnight of tennis, about to face a man who is younger, fresher, and getting stronger. The stars aligned once in Melbourne. A walkover here, a retirement there, a stretch of good fortune stitched into a run that let a 38-year-old summon one final surge of vintage brilliance. But fortune like that doesn't visit twice. If Sinner keeps climbing, keeps serving like a machine, keeps closing out matches in straight sets, keeps refusing to give an inch, then the number Djokovic has chased for years, that 25th Grand Slam, starts to feel less like an inevitability and more like a ghost. Australia was the flicker of the old fire, blazing one last time under the lights. Wimbledon was the cold, quiet reminder that fire eventually burns out. And somewhere between those two matches lies the real story of this rivalry. Not just who wins, but how much longer the legend can keep defying time before time finally has the